Hello pro strikers. Rodtang might just be the most popular Muay Thai fighter in the world today. In this video, we'll break down his style and see what has made the Iron Man such a difficult opponent to beat. Let's start the breakdown by looking at his stance. Stance. Rodtang fights in orthodox stance, and he likes to put the majority of his weight into his back foot. He likes to creep his way forward, often bringing his right foot in first, which goes against boxing fundamentals. This narrow stance would usually leave a fighter more susceptible to punches if the opponent were to step in, but in Muay Thai it allows a fighter to bring up his lead leg easily to kick as a defence if the opponent steps in. Here we see Smith step in and Rodtang sweeps his lead leg to unsettle his balance. Rodtang likes to lean back out the way as his main form of defence. At times this can be to his detriment, and something we will discuss later, but it must be noted as a reason for the way he stands. With his weight into his right leg and a slight lean back as he steps forward, he's ready to pull if an opponent steps into strike. Physicality. Rodtang is a very physical fighter. He's short in stature for the weight and has a compact frame. He is built for power. Often at a disadvantage in height and reach, he knows he has to be close to the opponent in order to land effective strikes. He has to move forward and he has to stay in front of the opponent. Rodtang makes advantage of the fingerless gloves by grabbing at the opponent's wrists and forearms. This prevents the opponent being able to punch effectively, but it also stifles their forward movement. Rodtang can use these controls as levers to pull the arms out of the way and land with his own elbows, and it helps him creep his way into range more safely. Rodtang is strong in the clinch and he has good off balances. This is an important part of his game as fighters will grab Rodtang to smother his boxing. Here Rodtang comes in with a combination of punches. Suplex grabs around Rodtang's neck with one arm, an umbrella grip with the crook of his elbow around the back of Rodtang's neck, and he has his other arm stuffed with Rodtang controlling the bicep from the inside. Suplex is trying to smother Rodtang and prevent him from punching effectively. From this position, Rodtang places his hand into the armpit of Suplex and uses it to push him whilst putting his leg in the way to block Suplex from stepping in order to trip him up. This then causes the referee to restart the bout and allows Rodtang to get straight back to work. Rodtang's physicality, his raw strength and ability to absorb damage allows him to take risks moving forward and fully commit to his offense. This brings me on to the next part of the video. Chin. You can't make a video about Rodtang without mentioning his iron chin. He is a little tank and is able to stand up to shots that would seemingly level 90% of other fighters. His stature certainly helps, being thick set for the weight class, but I do think it's a disservice to say Rodtang solely relies on his chin. As much as he is clearly tough and can take a good shot, he is deceptively crafty. Rodtang knows how to ride a punch and moves with it to lessen the impact. Here we can see Rodtang take 4 punches in the 8-ounce gloves in his kickboxing fight with Tagir. Notice the subtle turns with some of the punches. These ever so slight movements help mitigate the impact. In this example, we see Rodtang throw a left hook and take a left hook as he does so. Notice how he tucks his chin into his chest. He takes the punch on the head rather than in a vulnerable spot on the face. These little positional adjustments help him to minimise the damage a punch will cause. I think another factor in Rodtang's resilience is the fact he is pretty much always moving forward if he isn't utilising a defensive technique like a pull or a long guard. He's ready to be hit and rarely caught by surprise. I think the psychological aspect of him taunting opponents whilst he walks forward may make them more tentative to engage and fearful to fully commit to their own shots as they worry about the potential repercussions of sticking around in the pocket for too long. Rodtang is a showman and he employs these tactics to assert his dominance and try to bait his opponents to fight in a way that suits him. Aggressive tactics. Rodtang is a pressure fighter. He clearly has power, but he isn't regularly knocking people down or out with one shot. He slowly drowns opponents by forcing them to fight at an uncomfortable pace that they can't sustain. His defensive acumen and durability are massive factors, as this helps Rodtang to force exchanges. His conditioning, his defensive acumen, and his durability all combine to help Rodtang force exchanges. He can keep a really high pace. But Rodtang has to be able to cut opponents off and keep them in front of him in order to implement his game effectively. He has excellent ring generalship and positional awareness. Even though at times it might look like he's simply walking into range, he's a smart man and he knows where he is in the ring or cage. Here we can see Rodtang press forward and push Suplex back towards the ropes. Suplex attempts to exit to his left. Rodtang uses this to corral Suplex into several clubbing right hands. He's allowing Suplex to exit in that direction as it's to his advantage. He keeps the 45-degree angle, allowing Suplex to turn slightly as it keeps him in front of that right hand, but it also slowly forces him toward the corner where he'd be further trapped. Suplex, being an exceptional fighter in his own right, doesn't simply accept this manoeuvring, and he uses his own attack to turn himself off the rope and effectively reposition Rodtang onto them. Rodtang's also a clever man. From here, he uses the rope to his advantage by leaning into them and utilises a teep to stifle Suplex's attack. He then times a Suplex punch to duck underneath and pivot, turning himself off and switching roles once again. This is high level stuff. Rodtang is a solid Nat Muay, meaning he has mastered all the basics. As much as he has become known for his pressure punching and Muay match stylist, he has weapons for every range. Elbows are inherently very aggressive. You don't throw an elbow to feel an opponent out. Their sole purpose is to hurt and cause damage. As Rodtang advances, he's always looking to elbow. Like any Nat Muay, he has an excellent roundhouse kick, and as he moves in, he blasts roundhouse kicks to the leg and body. If Rodtang's facing an equally aggressive opponent, the elbows will be his go-to weapon. An elbow can not only cause a knockout, but significant superficial damage through cuts. If Rodtang wants to change the momentum of a fight quickly, he knows landing a good elbow can do the trick. Rodtang loves the spearing elbow. This elbow is particularly effective against fighters that utilise a high guard for defence, as it splits through the middle. It is probably the safest elbow to use, as the attacking fighter remains safe down the middle, protected by the point of their elbow, as well as anything coming around the side, as they are effectively employing the same defence as will be used to block a hook. Once Rodtang has his opponent pinned to the ropes, he begins to let go in combination. He has excellent shot selection and will find the holes with the angles he is given. Here we see Rodtang move Smith with the right hand. Smith moves to his own right to avoid the power side of Rodtang, which Rodtang uses to his advantage and lines up a spearing elbow through the middle of Smith's guard. In his bout with Suplex, he landed a near fight-ending elbow. His timing was near perfect, and that is an aspect that might be an underappreciated element of his game. He's very good at timing opponents as they step in, particularly with elbows. His forward pressure makes fighters feel like they need to do something, and the Iron Man is ready for when they attempt to bridge the gap. I would say the most reckless decision Rodtang frequently makes is his choice to lead with a left hook to the body. Starting with both hands by his chest and opening up as he retracts the left arm back to sling it in full power, he leaves himself very susceptible to potential counters, especially down the middle. But that's the kind of risk that a confident man who believes in his power can make. As much as Rodtang can be slick when he wants to be, his mindset is aggressive, and there is no better demonstration than him throwing leather in this manner. He commits to his punches, and he wants to cause damage. Rodtang throws punches with bad intentions. His willingness to engage and throw with conviction wears on opponents. He doesn't slow down, he doesn't go away, which mentally and physically fatigues the man in front of him. He makes opponents feel like they're fighting for their life.
Rodtang backs him off, body shot, belly button through the back, liver shot, down again!
Flaws. Rodtang is a brilliant fighter, but he isn't perfect. He can fall into his punches, smothering his own work, and he can be a little too reckless with his approach at times. This leaves him susceptible to straight shots down the middle, as previously talked about when he leads with a body shot. Tenshin had a lot of success with his boxing against Rodtang, frequently scoring with his jab and jab cross, as well as rear uppercuts that Rodtang didn't see coming. He had a lack of defence in the bout and would often be caught walking in straight lines. Haggerty also exploited this tendency. He would unsettle Rodtang's base with teeps to the leg and body, particularly in their first encounter. Here we see Suplex force the issue and press Rodtang back with physical controls, grabbing at his arms. He ploughs him with knees into a clinch, not allowing Rodtang the room to let go with his hands. Suplex bullied Rodtang to the ropes before landing a spear elbow through the middle. This staggered Rodtang, and Suplex then followed up with a knee, which floored the Iron Man for a count. Now some say this 8 count wasn't deserving, but either way, Suplex was dominant in this exchange, and it showed some vulnerability in Rodtang's defence. Rodtang can get caught backpedaling a little too frequently. Opponents that are brave and willing to commit to a combination can catch Rodtang as he attempts to pull. As talked about earlier, he puts the majority of his weight into his back foot, as this aids him in leaning back out the way of strikes. But his over-reliance on pulling can see him caught with other techniques like low kicks, as he is overly concerned with moving his head out of the way. Rodtang carries his hands low, which as talked about earlier, means he can punch effectively. but it also means he'd be caught by techniques that come around the side. We saw John Haggerty catch Rodtang with a head kick that would have been a little worrying if it weren't for Rodtang's durability. The main concern is you can't rely on your toughness forever. A boxing coach once said to me, if you drip water on a stone for long enough, you'll wear a hole, and that's the main concern when fighters rely too much on durability. Rodtang has the skills to be more defensively sound, and he has really good eyes, but he often chooses not to react correctly. He gets a little too lost in the brawl and is too focused on inflicting his own damage. But that's what makes Rodtang the biggest star of modern Muay Thai. He's mastered all the basics, he's a technically brilliant fighter, but he puts on a fight. He fights with a warrior spirit, and the people love him for it. As always, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and subscribe, and you can also support the channel via Patreon and access extra breakdowns and tutorials over there. Pro Striking appreciates you more than watching Rodtang get upset at opponents who don't want to bang.
You were a gladiator.
Yes, I was.
You won your freedom?
A long time ago, the Emperor presented me with a rudius. It's just a wooden sword.
I too want to stand in front of the Emperor. As you did.
Then listen to me. Learn from me. I wasn't the best because I killed quickly. I was the best because the crowd loved me. When the crowd